In my stance against sola scriptura, and as articulated in that book, Knife to a Gunfight, along with the preterist views I've had, I've run into kind of a block wall that has tormented me for the past few months. What is the wall? How to truly explain the value of the Word, since the Word, I suggest, was written to that audience in that day at that time, and was for them specifically. How to explain the value of the Word in this world, aside from all the rhetoric that you hear. Well, you know, it was written for us too, and all the things that you hear. How to explain that? I mean, I have friends in the faith who have also come around to understand full preterism. They've come around to understand the problem with sola scriptura. And they say, if everything is said and done, McCraney, and the Spirit is primary and preferential, and a person does not need to read the Bible or understand the Bible to be saved, what is its purpose? I mean, why do we even need it? And I've had a few people who have actually come to the position where they're like, we don't even really need it because it's subjectively understood. That's what you say, right? So I fully understand the purpose of the Bible to me in my life. I completely get it. But I've had a difficult time convincing some of these friends that my subjective views should be valued, and that they're valid and my views are valid. So I'm going to admit something here that is going to sound strange to you or very fringy, but in my life, and the people who are close to me, at least Mary, can attest to this, but I have experiences that teach me principles. And typically I'm engaged in a problem or some issue, and I'm working through it, and God seems to, or I'm making it up, but there seems to be some experiences or situations that teach me what He wants me to understand about the given concern. And it's happened to me since I was a kid, really. And you don't have to believe them and nor apply them to yourself, but through them I gain personal insight into what things really are, should be, mean, and never are those insights contrary to the Word of God. They just aren't. I have never had one of these experiences that goes against what is written. So I've been churning over this question about the value of the Word in people's lives today since Jesus has returned, or that's what I say, and since He has had the victory, and He has turned over the kingdom to God, and God is all in all, and since we are primarily led by the Spirit today, what does it mean? Well, last Wednesday morning, I started getting texts, and they're from a man who used to come to campus, but he could not really understand campus too well, and so he stopped coming. And his texts were relentless, and they started off with just saying things like chirp, and then buzz, and then question marks, and McCraney. And so I tried to reel him in, and I was starting to kind of let him know, you know, your texts are a waste of time. They're really starting to waste my time. And he would start to touch on some subjects about working and employment and stuff, but he kept relentlessly texting me these words all day. I counted up, there was 85 in a 7-hour period. And I mean, that's when it started on Wednesday. So I tried to politely at the end of the night say, you gotta stop, please. And he wrote, really? And then I woke up in the morning and I got another text from him. And so I told him straight up, you've got to stop these words coming to me. Half hour later, I got a call from a family member who was very upset with me. And she was at one time very on fire for the Lord and in the Word daily. But life and living and its struggles slipped away kind of from her exposure to the Word, and which was once at one time in her life daily, it sort of became non-existent. And in this particular confrontation, so did the fruit of the Spirit. And the bitterness from the words that were coming from her to me via phone conversation and text were very volatile. And they peppered my day, Thursday, more of these. And it was pretty relentless. In between and during around these calls, I met up with a man who I've known in ministry for 10 years. And he's very accomplished in many ways in the world. He remains a man of sorrows. And he battles the strength of his flesh constantly. Every 3 or 4 days for 10 years. And this is not an exaggeration. My family can attest to it. I've had conversations with him, And over the course of our relationship, he's battled with pot abuse, he's battled with alcohol abuse, porn addiction, great bouts of depression, very difficult stuff with his flesh. But here's the interesting thing about him. He's very well read. He's read hundreds and hundreds of books, mostly self-help books, filled with the wisdom of men. He loves self-help books. In my estimation, they've done little to help him, and he continues like a wave of the sea to go back and forth. But the interesting thing is he cannot stand reading the Word. And he'll do it. It's often from pressure from me, but it doesn't last. And I've asked him, what is it about the Word that you don't like? And he says, I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't want to keep reading it. So as I walked to greet him, this was that man, in my phone, in my pocket, my phone is buzzing with my relative who's raging against me. And so standing right in front of me is a man who refuses to read the Word or study the Word or hear it taught even. And in my pocket is someone else in my family who is not my immediate family, who is really angry with me and has stopped reading the Word, both in need of great help, both struggling, because this life is hard. As I drove away, I got a call from my kid's sister. She's LDS, ardent, and she told me that right at the time that she received the call from me earlier in the day, she was invited to a religion called the 12 Tribes religion. And while my sister is LDS, she's a seeker, and I have tried for years to get her to understand that it's not about men, it's not about religion, it's not about books, but it's about God. And I suggested constantly, read the Bible to my sister, but she refused to. And she continues to be active in the Mormon church, but she never lets the Word reassure her. She just keeps being active in these different religions. While I was speaking to her, I got a text from a gal who had wandered from Bible study. I've known her for a number of years, moved on to finding hope and truth in nature and God in the woods, and now has a very intellectual approach to the faith. And her distancing from the Word began years ago, and I was actually looking at a direct result. She sent me a video clip, a raunchy video clip from a movie, and she wrote, "So effing good." And so I saw someone who used to be really ardent in the Word about just trying to bring it in, and now this is someone who's come away from doing that, and now they're sending me messages that say these movie clips that are vulgar are so effing good. So a culminating meeting of all this stuff had not registered with me yet. I did not think there was anything to it, but this is the background as I look back, and I'd shared these things with my family. After not being able to convince my sister that the 12 tribes were just a cult, and after attempting to say just something nice to the vulgar video, after dodging a text from the relative of what a rat I am, I drove looking for a place to just sit and try to get some work done on a sermon. And I drove aimlessly, and I got a text from someone in the ministry. And that person texted me, and the subject of the text was the Word of God. Now, this man has shared with me that words are everything. The Word is spirit, and that the Word and the words of God are spirit, and they're everything. And I thought, that's interesting. This was the midst of all this stuff. For reasons unknown to me, I chose to go to a Del Taco, and I very rarely go there, but I wanted to get a Diet Pepsi, and so I went there that day. I walked in the door, and I was greeted by a large Hispanic man, and he was sitting there with like 3 unwrapped burritos in front of him. And as soon as I walk in, he said, "Hi, what's your name?" And I said, "My name's Shawn." And I told him, "Hi." And he said, "Would you like to sit with me?" And I said that I had some work to do. His name was Jesus. And I approached the counter, and I came to a woman, and she had bottle blonde hair, bad roots, bad skin, missing teeth, tattoos all over her body in different places. And she said, "How can I help you?" And she took her phone out and started typing. And I said, "Are you putting my future order in your phone?" And she said, "No." And I ordered a drink. She handed me the cup, and she came around the corner, and she said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name is Shawn." And she started to rattle off all sorts of disconnected information and use my name over and over and over again. And Shawn, that ice is really good. And you know what? We also have been here quite a while, opened it. And Shawn, and just kept talking. Jesus called out from across the thing, Shawn, will you sit with me? My phone beeped. More words from the relative. The dye job of, I took my seat. She went around the corner. I reached to get my backpack, and Jesus kept talking, and he talked, and he kept talking. Before long, his yammering about nothing included an invitation for me to engage with him in a homosexual act, because I'm a bear, he said, and that he and his boyfriend really would find me attractive. And I declined, but noticed that I was being offered sex from a man named Jesus in a Taco Bell, who would not stop talking. He would not stop talking. It was incessant. And it was about everything. Look at that paper just flew across the floor. Oh, there's cheese on this burrito. I mean, it was endless. Words. My phone buzzed. It was my relative. More words of anger. As I regretfully considered what the text said, a man in a dirty cut-off shirt came into the Del Taco. He was talking to himself and laughing in the conversation. The only time he did not talk was when he ordered, and then after he ordered, he went to the corner table across the restaurant lobby and talked and laughed to himself out in the air. Jesus is talking and laughing, yammering on and on. Texts were coming in a steady beat. My sister, the family member, the meth woman behind the counter is talking to people who she works with. A young man jerking from methamphetamine addiction came in. I don't know how he got in there. The bottle blonde, straight up behind the counter, said, "Get out of here." They had a fight. He called her a name. She called him a name. He grabbed taco sauce packets and started throwing them at the ground. My phone buzzed. It was my relative. It said, "You're the worst man on earth." From the other side, a thin woman came in the door. She was wearing a pair of white see-through spandex shorts that were filthy from the crotch all the way up the back. Filthy. She was meth addicted, and she stormed to the counter. Apparently she was the girlfriend of the tweaker who had just been booted out. A verbal altercation occurred between the employee, bottle blonde, and the filthy white shorts, and they started to dramatically cackle. Voices. In the meantime, Jesus starts announcing what is being said. The man in the corner is yammering on and on, talking, conversing to himself, laughing. Dirty Pants Girl boyfriend rushed in and lunged at the girl from behind the counter. Lunged at her. I'm not sure where everybody came from, but within minutes, there was about 7 to 9, maybe 10 people in there. And all of them were excitedly egging the situation on, excitedly addressing what was going on with words. Jesus was talking with words. The crazy guy in the corner is talking with words about it, but not looking at it. Everyone's talking. The spirit of the room just ignited. Words were everywhere. The chaos at the counter continued, and people started leaving and coming. And then they come in and they'd say something, and they'd leave, and they'd go out and they'd go in the parking lot and say something and come back in, and it just continued to grow. My phone buzzed. It was from somebody I know who sent me a Metallica clip by a puppet. I was going insane. I was literally going insane. Filthy shorts girl came running out of the bathroom and screamed, "A woman has had a heart attack in the bathroom." And she has tears. Instead of everybody running in to help, they all started fighting with each other. I don't know what it was. Jesus calls 911 and he screams that someone is dying in the restroom of Taco Bell on 4th South. A morbidly obese man came and started yelling because his order wasn't being taken. The manager finally popped in, went into the restroom, and came out and said, "There's no one in there." And Dirty Pants laughed maniacally. Maniacally. The fire department pulled up, only to be told it's a false alarm. A woman in a long skirt, frayed at the bottom, came in talking to nobody. I got a text. I hate you. A man in scars and tats entered. He came and sat in a booth. First thing he said, what's your name? First thing. I said, Shawn. He told me all about being shot, all about being stabbed, all about his life and his philosophy on how to live life. An emaciated teen came in. She put her bike upside down, went to the counter, waited for 2 minutes. When someone finally came to the counter, she said, can I refill my water? She refilled the water, came out. I put my glasses on. It wasn't an emaciated woman. It was a 65 or 75-year-old female homeless woman. And her eyes were dead and her face was gnarled. And she didn't speak, but she looked at me with such vile hatred. And my phone buzzed, and it buzzed again. And suddenly the tatted bottle blonde came from behind the counter, ran out into the parking lot. Dirty Pants was riding on a motocross bike, and she pushes her over. She hits the asphalt. Jesus calls the police, now 911. There's a physical fight going on. Kept going. Insults are exchanged. Man with laughter and talk kept going. Is this going on a long time for you? A lot of words, isn't it? My phone buzzed again. I couldn't even read it. I couldn't take another word from another human being. The police came. It broke up. Apparently, Bottle Blonde and Filthy Pants were sisters. No charges were filed. Jesus stood up and said he was going to leave. He took a picture of everybody standing around. He said, hey, Shawn, what should I call this? I said, Taco Hell. He laughed. He went up to the manager and he said, I want a job here. This place is great. And he left. After bidding me goodbye, I walked out of the place through the Walking Dead, who were all in the parking lot. I went and I laid on my bed that night, and I could not go to sleep. I laid there till probably 12:30 or 1, and I went to bed fairly early. And I'm asking God, what is this? What is this all about? This started Wednesday, it's Thursday night, midnight, and I don't get it. And I woke the next morning and I knew the common denominator. God didn't speak to me verbally, but in my heart I knew. Every single person in that story was lacking the Word of God in their life. Every single one of them. Many of them could have claimed to be believers at one time or still, but they did not have the Word of God coursing through their life. It was so obvious. What did they have? The words of men. The words that man says you can help yourself. The word of men that say it's okay to use drugs. Words that say you need to speak your mind in this day and age. Words that say you can be what you want, do what you want, live free, whatever. Words of men, and all of them were lacking the Word of God. And so I realized why we have the Word of God in our lives. Because while we might even be saved, while we might know Him from our heart, that Word keeps us hearing what He wants us to know, and not what all the millions of other voices are trying to tell us and suggest to us. I have an answer for my friends now who say, tell me what the purpose of the Word is. And I have it through that literal experience.